Hey everybody, my name is Jordan Evans. I'm a music teacher, and in today's video, I'm going to be talking about seriously one of the coolest things about music that no matter what type of musician you are, what level, you should have a little bit of understanding of it. And even if you're not a musician at all, this is super duper complicated stuff that I'm going to break down into very simple terms that anybody can understand. And I'm telling you, it's all about the Overtone series, why we have this piano, why is it 12 tones, why do we have major scales, minor scales. All these things are going to make a lot of sense in a very enlightening way. So getting right into it, anytime we play a note, any of these notes, anytime I speak, anytime I sing, anytime any noise happens, it's creating something what's called a hertz. And the hertz is just how quickly something is vibrating. So something that's vibrating at 60 hertz is going to be very low and loud and sustains long. I don't know if this is exactly 60 hertz, but that's a very low. And everyone remembers being in like grade school and you see the pictures of the sine waves and some are really fast. And that's what it sounds like. It's gone in an instant. Very fast wave versus a very low and sustaining wave. So once you have this in mind, all of these sounds exist in nature. And what's super duper cool, all of music exists in nature. Everything that happens on this piano, pitch-wise, we can make with our voices as humans. Elephants can make them, birds. Even planets orbiting in space vibrate at hertz that we can see, and they all fall into this overtone series. It's a scientific phenomenon which exists why we have this tempered tuning system that the guitar follows, the violin follows, mandolin, even drum sets and timpanis. Everything falls into the overtone series. And so it's super duper cool. Whenever I play this pitch, there's actually a number of pitches that are being triggered above it. I don't know exactly when they discovered this, but I'm sure you've heard the pentatonic scale. This was one of our very first, whenever people first started creating musical instruments like flutes and harps, they would often follow these because it's just super duper simple, but they all exist in and of themselves. So say I play this tone where you're not just hearing this C down here, you're actually hearing all of this. Oh, that was the wrong note. So notice how when I'm playing these extra notes, they actually don't add anything to this. You're still hearing this big vibration. I'll add the extra notes. Oh, I apologize. This is what it is. And after that, the movements get way too small for us to quantify on a piano. But from right here, anytime we take a pitch, and say this A is 440 hertz. I do know that. This is exactly what 440 hertz sounds like. If you were just to generate any kind of a sine wave and program it in for 440 hertz, it's gonna make this exact same pitch. But the timbre might be different, which we'll talk about timbre later. So this is A440. If I went up to this next A, you can hear they're the same note, but this one is at A8, 880. So anytime we go up an octave, it's doubling the frequency. So this next one would be 1760 if I doubled it again. So 440, 880, 1760. I really hope that's right. I think it is. And a great way to see this more, if you're a guitar player, is the easiest because guitar players have frets. And there's that special 12th fret that's got 2 dots on it versus the other like 3, 5, 7, 9 that only have 1 dot to indicate where the frets are. If you put your finger on that 12th fret, say the open string's an E, this note right here on your guitar, if you play on the 12th fret, it's gonna play an octave up because you can physically see you're cutting that frequency in half, which is why it's indicated there. I say you could do it on any stringed instrument because on a violin, it's super duper hard to find that. It's really advanced to do partials and harmonics is what they're called on a non-fretted stringed instrument. But on a guitar, if you have a guitar just sitting around your house, go try it. And you can see, oh, look, I'm cutting that frequency in half. So we have what's called our fundamental in the overtone series. And then we have our first partial, which is an octave up. It's just the octave. And so this is a 1/2 ratio, which is why they sound so nice. And to get into that, certain intervals are consonant, like listen to how smooth this is. But then this, very jarring, it's dissonant. But then we can go back to a smooth, or we can do something really jarring, and then resolve it to something smooth. So, because this is a 1 to 1/2 ratio, this is 1, this is half, they sound very nice together, The next partial will be going, say we took that same guitar string and we broke it into sets of thirds. So now we have 3 parts of the string. We're gonna hit our second partial, which is a G. This is where you might have heard the expression perfect fifth. So this is a really small ratio as well. So these are actually very, very identical to each other. Almost indistinguishable if you play them together. And if I invert them, still very similar. Ooh, that was a different note. So this is actually where the circle of fifths come from. And check this out. If you haven't looked at the circle of fifths once, I actually have a video about it that I think is super duper helpful. But if I just follow the fifths, C, G, D, I'm just going around the fifths. E, B, I'm gonna go down to this B. B, F sharp, A flat, E flat, going back down, E flat, B flat, F, C. Look at that, I just got back to C. So there's 12 times, and if you just go around the circle 12 times, only following those perfect fifths, it gets you right back to where you started, which is where the chromatic scale comes from. All these notes are just the circle of fifths that we arranged in order of their hertz, so where they come in order. But let's go to the next partial. We have the fundamental, first partial, second partial. So far we have an octave being the ideal sound. They are almost unison, perfect together. The next one is the perfect fifth. It sounds beautiful. Almost indistinguishable that I'm adding in an extra note there. The next one is gonna be from this G to the next C above it, and we call this a perfect fourth. Notice so far I've played 3 Cs just with this G in between it. But from C to G, that's a perfect fifth, but the other way, G, C, is a perfect fourth, which you'll hear from Here Comes the Bride, or that's how I memorize those, Amazing Grace. So, perfect fourth, both these intervals are perfect, and you'll notice they're just splitting up. So far I have my first partial, second partial is a perfect fifth, third partial is a perfect fourth. And what is seriously so cool, any noise in nature, I'm telling you, an elephant tooting its trunk, I don't know, that's what it's called, or a bird singing, an orangutan making a like guttural noise, how they make their howls and stuff, or a wolf howling even. It all follows the overtone series. All these pitches exist in nature. And so this is probably the coolest part of all of this. If a civilization, say our civilization, collapsed to nothing, no history of music, every record gone, 10,000 years later, humans would come to the same exact understanding of our harmonic analysis and music theory that we have, because this exists in nature. Certain things sound very nice, certain things sound jarring, and we can return it. There's order, there's chaos, and there's order. But that's what makes music so much fun to listen to, so much fun to write, is we have options to create this dark sound, and we have options to create really beautiful sounds. But we also have options to make dark sounds. So there's tons of versatility, and it all exists because we have this overtone series. So even if you forget all of this, just understand that when we're making music, there is something really, really spectacular happening underneath. And I'm gonna get into some really practical advice later about how we can use this to our advantage. So, fundamental, first partial, second partial, third partial. From here, we get a super duper major important interval. We go from C to E, which is actually our major third. So anytime we play a chord, like a triad, we have major chords, we have minor chords. So this is where we get our major chord from. And this is why the major chord sounds so nice, because I believe, hang on, this is half, thirds, fourths. So the perfect fourth is when we split the string into 4 parts, and now this major third is when we split the string into 5 parts, parts of 5. And then check it out. The next one, we get to another G, but look, whenever the first time we went around, when we cut the string into a third, we get a G, but now when we cut it into a 6, now there's 6 portions of string playing, we get the G above here. But here's where it gets really interesting, because our last partial, the 1/5, was an E. E to G actually makes a minor third, you'll hear. So there's our minor sound. So now so far we've gotten a perfect fifth, perfect fourth, major third, and then a minor third, a little bit smaller. And all of that exists right here in the music. I mean, it is seriously so cool. But here's where it gets crazy. As that ratio grows, so the first one, 1 to 1/2, all perfect unison, 1 to 1/3, a little bit different, but it's still quite nice. But by the time we get to the 1 to 1/6, you can tell that there's clearly 2 different notes being played, but it's still quite nice together. Let's go to the next one. The 7th one is going to be, okay, the minor third, that's right. but it's just another G. If you add in the C, then you can hear the color of it. The next one is actually another minor third, which is the first really jarring one. And this is where we get our dominant 7 chords from. So now we have this B flat up here. That's interesting. And now we get our first whole step, which is just from B back to C. And at this point, let me just do my math real quick. 1, half, third, 4th, 5th, 6th, 7th, 8th. Oh my gosh, it is so incredible. Every time we play a C, it's an interval of 2. 1, half, a quarter, an eighth. And from here, we get to the 1/9, which gets us to the D, and then the 10th is gonna put us on, no, the 10th is actually another E. So that's the next one. After that, we actually are unable to play it on the piano because they get so minuscule. So just like that, the whole entire Overtone series, starting on C. Whoops, not that. And what's nuts, hear how all those notes blend together. It's almost indistinguishable from when I just played the C by itself. And you can notice at the beginning, they're very stable. They're right together. Those are just the perfect fifth, the perfect fourth, and the octave. But then it starts getting a little more colorful. Oh, wow, it's so outstanding. And what's so cool about this, as you keep going up, you get the rest of your tones. They're just smaller and smaller intervals. But that's why when I play something like this, all those intervals are clashing against each other because the ratios of their hertz don't fit together. But that's something that makes music so interesting, because you have this big clash of a sound that you can resolve into something that is orderly, something that we love. So you'll hear in music all the time, they'll have a, because we go from something that is a little bit chaotic, there's this tritone right here, tritone, and then we're resolving it to something really, really consonant. And that's the word right there. Dissonant is any interval that doesn't sound nice together. Consonants are intervals that always sound pleasing when we play them together. And that is somewhat of a subjective term, because some people might hear this interval or that interval and say, I quite like that. But it's not subjective that this is a pleasant sounding interval, just the C and the 5. So whenever we're writing music, it's really nice to have a progression of these things. I can start somewhere really nice, I can go somewhere else really nice, but maybe from here, I want to go to something kind of dissonant, sad. And what's cool is I have 2 common tones of the chord I was just playing. That's how I got there. And then from here, maybe I want to resolve it into something nice, or I want to stay in this darkness before I resolve it. And that would be the end resolution of that. So it's just something to keep in mind. Whenever we hear music and something isn't pleasing right away, or we hear a dissonant interval, maybe it's leading to something nice. Yeah, just like that. So I hope what I've talked about so far isn't too crazy and off the rocker for you to kind of bear with me. Just know that this Overtone series exists. We have perfect fourths, we have perfect fifths, major, minor. Those are the big takeaways from it. But this is what part of the coolest thing ever, is that now we get into the timbre of instruments and the timbre of people's voices, or the timbre of a clap. They all trigger the Overtone series in different ways. So when I play this note, I don't know this super duper well, but different partials are being hit by this piano, which is what makes it sound like a piano. A clarinet could play this exact same B flat as the piano, but it has a completely different timbre of the instrument because the way it hits overtones are a little bit different. So if I was just to break everything down into a pitch, if I just played a C sine wave in a computer program, it would sound very bleak and dull. You actually might find that this is an acoustic instrument. On an electric instrument, you're not going to get quite the same acoustics of the Overtone series. So if I just took a blank sine wave on C, they're all going to sound exactly the same. But as we explore, we play a French horn, it's going to trigger those overtones a little bit differently. And some of the best composers throughout history are very familiar with these overtones and how to use them to their advantage. So John Williams, when he wrote that big introduction to the Star Wars theme, it's a B flat major chord, I'm pretty sure. But the whole orchestra, he actually has everyone just playing these big B flats, and I think there's like 1 D in the whole thing. Is it? No, it's definitely a major chord. And he actually has no perfect fifths in there because he's just playing all these, trusting the Overtone series to fill it up. So this is just some super duper cool stuff that I enjoy. I'm a huge music theory nerd. I love understanding how this stuff works. I hope this is something cool that you've learned about, you can bring up in a conversation, or you can incorporate in your playing. Just to summarize, just remember, anytime we're playing a note on any instrument, we hear all these partials filling up the air. And we call them partials. This is the fundamental, wherever we start. We can do it in any key. Say I did it in G. There's my fundamental, the octave, the perfect fifth, the perfect fourth, and then I have the major third, the minor third, and then from there it was another minor third, whole step, and that's as far as we can go. I guess you could, no, that it's not quite right, because it's not quite a half step and it's not quite a whole step. It like fits in between there, which is where some instruments can play microtones. We are somewhat limited to a 12 tone tuning system. So there are microtones and stuff, but that doesn't really matter too much. If you like this stuff, let me know. I would love to make more videos about me just being a nerd about music and things that I enjoy. If you have any questions or things that I can elaborate more on, I've spent years studying this stuff. I'd love to share. And other than that, I hope you have a great day. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.